The Connor McDavid negotiations continue to be at a standstill. Nick Zararis of Locked On Oilers is here to talk about that and whether or not the Oilers have what it takes to return to the Cup final this year. All that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. It's great to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Oilers, Nick Zararis. And Nick, it's on a lot of people's minds right now. Connor McDavid still in contract limbo. Where are we at and what's the holdup here?
So from everything we've heard, the Oilers have said whatever he wants, he's going to get. I just don't know if he knows what he wants. We were talking about it before we started recording. The logic would tell you, you do a 2, a 3, the longest, a 4-year deal, like what Austin Matthews did with Toronto a couple of years ago. But for him, if it's about winning, I can't tell you signing with the Oilers for 7 or 8 years is in your best interest. I think once you look past some of the bright spots, you have Bouchard for another 4 years. You got Draisaitl for 7 more years. Beyond that, Hyman's in his early 30s. Nuge is in his early 30s. Those are their last 2 top 6 guys for sure. The rest of the group is going to be a real rotating cast. Andrew Mangiapane has 1 30-goal season under his belt. His career average for goals in a season is like 14. Trent Frederick's career average in goals in a season is 13. They're betting on European free agents like David Tomasek, who, great player in the Swedish league, led the league in points last year. You have no idea if he's going to be a top sixer or if he's going to be in Bakersfield in the AHL because he needs to get used to North American hockey. Matthias Ekholm is a free agent at the end of this year. Jake Wallman is a free agent at the end of this year. Both the goalies are free agents at the end of this year. So if you're Connor McDavid and you're looking at this and winning is your number one priority, you can't look at this team and say this is a Stanley Cup caliber team. Look, Savoie, Ike Howard, a lot of upside there, and that's tantalizing. The magic box, the prospect that can be anything, it's enticing for us as fans, as people on the outside looking in. But he has to know, more likely than not, the last 2 years they made 2 Cup finals. Those are probably the best kicks at the can they're going to have for a little while. They probably need, not a reset, but they're going to need to reconfigure this team in a year or two because a lot of the supporting cast is either older or it's coming up on time for new contracts. And when you get to this inflection point, you have to really, it's a real sliding doors moment. And we were talking about it earlier. They've lost basically an entire bottom 6 of players. Corey Perry, they lost Corey Perry, Connor Brown. Last year, you lose Warren Fogle. You have to trade away Ryan McLeod for cap considerations. You lose 4 or 5 guys. Derek Ryan retires, guys. And that, they just have so many question marks in this forward group. It's been the prevailing theme of Locked On Oilers all summer is I don't know what this lineup could possibly look like because I don't think the Oilers know what it's going to look like yet.
So where do you see this going? How does this play out most likely?
My assumption is we'll do what most star players do, where if we get to that second week of October, the 7th, 8th, whenever the season starts, and there's no contract, I think we're going to table this for a while. I don't think this is going to be something that they're going to do in the course of the season. I still think there's enough time that they can get this done before the start of the regular season. Still got a good 2.5, 3 weeks. It's not the end of the world, but I said in mid to late July that if Stan Bowman can't get this done, that if the Oilers can't get a McDavid extension done and they either need to trade him in season to get something, or if he walks on July 1st of next year, that is the biggest organizational failure imaginable. And you can look at the Mitch Marner situation in Toronto, the John Tavares situation with the Islanders, where those were teams that were actively trying to make the playoffs. You cannot in good conscience say, well, we got to trade this guy. We got to get something. We got to do something. Because then you're giving up on the season. You're not competing if you're trading the best player on your team. And it's a real oxymoronic situation where you have to be able to prioritize both right now because they're probably 4th, 5th best team in the West. But you also need to be considerate of the fact you have Draisaitl for 7 years. You have Bouchard for 4. Beyond that, this team is a massive blank slate. Yeah, they have guys under contract like Hyman, like Nugent Hopkins, but the impact of those guys is going to continue to diminish over time. And this team just does not have a lot set in stone right now. I think it'll get done. I think it'll be something in the ballpark of 2 or 3 years and 16 to 17 million per year. That would be my guess. That's not inside information. That's just reading the tea leaves. I think it's in his interest to wait to go long. I think if you really want to win and you want to maximize your money, it works to his interest because the cap will keep going up over time. And if the Oilers aren't good 2 years from now, he can leverage his way to somewhere else in a trade. Or if he wants to get to unrestricted free agency and turn it into an outright bidding war, it is entirely in his interest to go short here. Whereas the Oilers, of course, would like to do the same thing they did with Draisaitl, give him the 8-year deal and not worry about it for the next 8 years.
Talk to me about you. We mentioned some of the guys who have left. Talk to me about some of the new faces who may help this team this year.
So the big one is Andrew Mangiapane. And the way I described it, I've been talking about it all summer. The Oilers had a choice. And Stan Bowman said, I would rather have one more forward who's worth about $3.5–4 million per season than I would rather upgrade Stuart Skinner, because that's about the price point there. They could have got John Gibson for what the Red Wings traded, but that cap difference of about $3 million for Skinner and Pickard combined to the $6 million or so John Gibson's owed, that's one more top 9 forward. And the Oilers' supposition is having one extra top 9 forward is more important than upgrading the goalie. And Stan Bowman can point to each of the last 2 years and say, they were good enough to get us there. The first time we're one goal away from winning the whole thing. They are not the problem here. We need to get what's around them right. And in addition to Mangiapane, you hope Trent Frederic, who was pretty underwhelming in the playoffs, dealing with a bad wheel, lower body injury, so hopefully a little healthier. Somebody they really gambled on. You know, like I said, Trent Frederic's career average in goals in a season is 13, and they locked him up for 7 years, and he doesn't really have a track record of playing top 6 minutes. He doesn't really have a track record of being a play driver, a really impactful offensive player, but they like him as the Evander Kane replacement, the hard-nosed forechecker. So I would put him in that new faces box, even though he was on the team in the postseason. David Tomasek, who I mentioned from the Swedish Elite League, European free agent, an archetype that Stan Bowman has had success with dating back to his time in Chicago, signing Panarin, probably the most successful one, a couple goalies, a couple depth forwards as well. And then you're talking about fringe guys, the Ike Howard trade. I have no idea what to expect from Ike Howard. He was playing college hockey last year. You go from playing 37, 38 regular season games. You only play 2 or 3 times a week in a very short span of time to 82 games. It wouldn't shock me if he was in the AHL for stretches this year, if he has a hard time adapting to the speed of the game. Same thing with Savoie. Savoie was really good in the AHL last year, but the leap from the AHL to the NHL, especially in a top 6 role, it's going to be asking a lot. And especially with no Zach Hyman for at least the first month of the season coming back from that broken wrist, they have massive questions. Is Mangiapane playing on the left or the right? Is he playing with McDavid or Draisaitl? Are they going to keep Podkolzin with Draisaitl? Because they liked that tandem a lot last year. Even though Podkolzin only had 11, 12 goals, they like the underlying results, and they think maybe there's more juice to squeeze there. But past that, okay, if Nugent Hopkins is going to be the third line center, which all signs indicate it will be, you're paying Adam Henrique to be a $3.7 million fourth line center. That's not a great look for anybody. The way the roster is assembled right now, it's really contingent on the guys who don't have track records. Savoie, Howard, Tomasek, and then I would say Frederic, Mangiapane, bounce back candidates, but they have a lot more uncertainty. And it's weird because the Oilers are an old team, and old teams generally don't have this much uncertainty in their mix. But this group, man, the saving grace is going to be the defense. I mean, they're bringing back all 6 guys from the defense last year, and that's really the strength of the team. And there's volatility there, but I think the defense gives them a high enough floor that they'll hang around. It's just a matter of if any of these forwards, especially the unproven ones, are able to be successful. That, I think, is going to be the story of this season. We know what you're going to get from Connor, from Leon, from Evan Bouchard. But beyond that, your guess is as good as mine.
We shall see. It'll be an interesting season up in Edmonton. Nick, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
You can find Locked On Oilers on all the major podcasting platforms and over on YouTube. And on socials, it's Nick Zararis or Nick Zararis Sports. Thanks for having me, Gil.
All right, Nick. Thank you. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And if you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch Money is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. And if you and a significant other share financial accounts, this is a great way to keep you both on the same page. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com using code LOCKEDONNHL.